Well, today I'm enjoying some time in one of my favorite places in southern Indiana to hunt. It's simply a little food plot that we call food plot number 4. It's a beautiful clover plot that we frost seeded this past year, but I can't help but think back to a hunt that happened here back on November the 7th, 2015. It was a hunt in which the products from Mastins Deer Scents played a key role into helping me harvest a buck that we called the Big 8. As I was doing my opening interview, we heard something moving through the woods immediately to my north. This is a long, narrow food plot, and right immediately to the north at about 100 to 150 yards, we heard something moving through. I picked up the grunt tube and I issued a couple of grunt calls as well as doe bleats. As deer hunters, we know that sometimes, especially during the peak of the rut, by fooling a deer's senses, we're able to capitalize on that magic moment for a harvest. Within the next 5 minutes, we heard a deer moving through a little valley that's immediately to my right, just below the food plot. At this point, we had his curiosity piqued, but as he came up the hill, his senses began to look for that buck and doe that he had heard. In the video, he is standing literally just inside the wood line for almost 8 minutes as he scans the food plot looking for that buck and doe. This is when I truly believe the Mastins Deer Scents actually began to overtake his senses, and although he could not see a buck or doe, he was ready to move in because he could smell them. On the video, you can actually see a deer drag that's hanging from a limb, and we had the Mastins Deer Scents full estrus hanging on the drag. We also had another product that we love to use, and it's called the double scent stacker. You can think of it kind of like a potpourri for deer scents. In the bottom of the double scent stacker, we had the Mastins Deer Scents Smell Like a Deer candle burning, and on the top, we had the Mastins Deer Scents full estrus. The buck, as he stood just inside the wood line, was actually drooling, and we could see that as it was all beginning to play out. Eventually, the buck was comfortable enough. He stepped into the food plot. Once he stepped into the food plot, he turned to the left. As you can see in this video, as the buck went approximately 10 yards to his left, he stopped and placed his nose down directly into a scrape that I had created using the doe in full estrus from Mastins Deer Scents. And once that buck, the Big 8, stuck his nose into that scrape, it gave me a beautiful quartering away shot, and the arrow found its mark, helping me to harvest the Big 8. It sure was a memorable moment for my son Will and I on stand. The arrow found its mark, leading to a quick recovery, but I am confident today that the use of the Mastins Deer Scents product, as well as using that grunt tube to get his initial attention to pull him to the stand, and once he was in the area of the stand, the Mastins Deer Scents took over his sense of smell, and it pulled him the remainder of the way to the stand. We simply want to invite you to check out all of the great products that Scott Robertson and the folks at Mastins Deer Scents put out. You can visit them at www.mastinsdeerscents.com, where their scents make sense.